Señor Jorge,
Buenas, ¿cómo estás?
bien, dichosos los ojos que lo ven.
A ustedes, ¿cómo que el dichoso? Los he estado viendo casi toda la semana, amigo. No siempre
Ujú.
me puedo quedar ahí metido,
Ok,
pero ahí vamos. ¿Cómo has estado? Cuéntame, cuéntame.
bien, con mucho trabajo, pero bien, por suerte.
Eso es bueno, te
Ah,
mantiene ocupadito.
sí, mejor así.
Sí,
Muchas
es
veces,
preferible a no tener mucho que hacer.
sí, muchas veces pienso que maybe retire, después pienso, no, si uno retire se pone
Así
más
es,
viejo, más rápido.
es muy cierto. Mantener la mente activa es lo más importante que hay.
¿Ya?
Sí, sí.
Ujú.
¿A qué horas te vas a trabajar?
Como ven temprano, 7:30, 8.
Y puedes regresar como a qué horas, amigo.
A veces vuelvo al mediodía y sigo trabajando de casa. Yo no, en la oficina voy nada más que media hora, 1 hora por día. Tengo que ir a los edificios y eso, pero si no, yo puedo contestar el teléfono desde mi casa. I don't need to be sitting at a desk.
No tienes que estar en el cuarto de la oficina, nada de eso.
No. Eso desde que empezó el COVID.
Así es.
Who's here?
Vamos a ver. Ah,
Ernie,
Ernesto.
Ernesto.
We are on we are on 9.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
How do we know that the Kohanim can eat the meat of the Kodesh Kodshim in the Heichal? Because it says Bekodesh Kodoshim Tochlenu. So the Gemara wants to know why we need a pasuk. We could learn it misvara. Lema. Why not say it says B'chatzar Oel Moed Yochlu? There's another pasuk that says you can eat Kodesh Kodoshim in the Azara. Well, the Azara is Tafel to the Heichal. If you can eat it in Azara, you certainly could eat it in the Heichal. That's what the Gemara wants to say. However, Avoda, that means Rabbi Yochanan said if you bring the meat into the Heichal, it does not become puzzle. But it's a big stretch to say you can eat it there. Meaning, Avoda the Adam b'makam Rabo, when you serve your Rebbe or your master, you can work in front of him. Then you can say, doing the avoda in the you certainly could do the avoda in the heichal. But achila, shein adam ochel b'mkom rabo. It's not kovedik to eat in front of your master. So the reason time of the cost of rachmana, time of the cost of kra, is because the pasuk wrote it. B'kodesh kodeshim tochlenu. We wouldn't have said the svara to learn it through logic. Okay, itmar. Up until now, we've been learning that a mincha has to be prepared in the azar, and you have to mix the flour and oil in the azar before you do the kmitza. What if you mixed it outside of the azar? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Psul, Rish Lakish Amar Kshem. Rish Lakish Amar Kshem Radichsi V'Yotzak Ale Hashem V'Nasan Ale Levona. First, it says put oil on the flour and spice. The hadar, After that pasuk, it says Veviyal bnei Aaron hakohanim. Then bring it to the kohanim v'komats. It seems to imply that from kmitza on you need kohanim, and per se the azara. Right? Mikmitza ve'elach mitzvahs kuna limit al yitziku blila shiksher and bizarre. But perhaps the initial mixing of the flour with oil could be done even by a non-kohen. And umidikuna lo boy, panim nami lo boy. If you don't need a kohen, you don't need the azara. That's how Reish Lakish says it's kshera. Rav Yochanan psula kivan asiyasa b'kliu. A mincha has to be performed in a kli. Nihid chahuna lo boy. So I agree, may not require kahuna, but panim miyas boy. Because it needs a kli, it's clear that it needs the azar itself. Tanya kavas Rabbi Yochanan, and there's a brayso to support Rabbi Yochanan. B'lo azar kshera. If a non-kohen mixed the flour and oil before the kmitza, and you do it, but you do it chutz l'chomes azar psula, it's possible, which is not like Reish Lakish. Itmar. Mincha shechasar kodim kmitza. You've put flour and oil in a kli, and you're going to do the kmitza. However, some of the flour is lost before you do the kmitza. Rav Yochanan yavi misach beisavim alena. You can resuscitate the mincha. You can bring flour from your home and fill it up. You cannot do that. Rav Yochanan maybe misach beisavim alena because kmitza kovale. It's not putting in the kli that's koveh the mincha. It's doing the kmitza. Once you do the kmitza, then if it was missing something, then it disqualifies. But here, before the kmitza, you identified that there was some missing. Fine, fill it up before you do the kmitza, and it doesn't become possible. Why? Kedushas kli kovale. Once you put the requisite amount of flour and oil in the kli, that establishes it as a mincha. Now, if you lose some of that flour, then you can't resuscitate it. That's it. However, Eser Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish, Chaser halog. This has to do with the tahara process of a metzora, and you have to anoint him with oil. Chaser halog imad shelo yotzak. If we lost some of the volume of the oil, was lost before you pour it into the hands of the Kohen, that's okay, yimalenu, you can fill it up. The oil was put in the kli sharis. So we see it's not the kli that establishes it, it's the action, like the kmitza. Okay, tiyufta, it's clear that we knocked Reish Lakish out of the box. Itmar. Another din in mincha. After you do the kmitza, the flour that remains is called the shirayim. So now shirayim shechasru be kmitza laktara. Now, the normal process should be, once you take that kmitza and you put it in a new kli, and you walk that new kli over the mizbeach, and you throw that kmitza onto the fire, now you can eat the remaining shirayim. However, if before the kmitza made it to be thrown on the fire, some of the flour of the shirayim was lost, Rav Yochanan maktir kol mitzaleh, and you can still throw the kmitza. Reish Lakish Amar ein maktir kol mitzaleh. You cannot. Aliyah b'Rabbi Eliezer kalam lo pligi. We're going to see a machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, everybody will hold that you can throw the kmitza. Ki pliga li Rabbi Yoshua. The machlokas between Rav Yochanan and Reish Lakish is related to Rabbi Yoshua. This is not. Nitmu shireha. Let's say the shirai became tamei, or nisrafu shira got burnt, or avdu shira, or the shiraim got lost. Kimidas Rabbi Eliezer kshera. Rabbi Eliezer has learned by an animal korban that if you do shchita and you have the meat left over to eat, and then you do zrika sadam, let's say all the meat got lost or tameh, you still do zrika sadam. Similarly, therefore, by a mincha, if the shirayim gets even completely lost, you can still be zoyrek the kmitza. But kmitas Rabbi Yeshua psula. Rabbi Yeshua says that you cannot do the zrika unless the shirayim is intact. Man the pasuk Rabbi Yeshua. The one who holds like Rabbi Reish Lakish will hold Rabbi Yeshua. Uman de kosher ad kan lekom Rabbi Yeshua samelet lo yishtayer. Rabbi Yeshua said if nothing remains, you can't do the kmitz. But if there's shirayim left, I feel Rabbi Yeshua moedele that it would be okay. Where do we see this? The Tanya. That there's a difference between Rabbi Yeshua, whether all of the remainder has been lost or just some. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, kol azvachim shebetor, all animal korbanos, shenishtar mehem kazayas basar or kazayas chelev. If there's a kazayas basar remaining, or a kazayas chelev remaining, zorik adam, you could do zrika. So this is the analogous case to the mincha, that as long as a certain amount of flour remains, you can do throw the knitza. Kachazayas, kachatzi zayis basar, kachatzi zayis chelev, ein a zorka sadam. By a korban whose meat is eaten, like a shlamim or a chatas or nosham, if you only have a chatzi kazayis basar and chatzi kazayis chelev, you cannot do zrika. You can't be mitzaref them because one is human eating, the other is the mizbech consumes it. Now, ba'oila. Now, in oila, nobody eats the meat. All the meat is burnt and all the chelev is burnt. So then, afilu kachatzi zayis basar, kachatzi zayis chelev, zorka sadam. V'neisha ba'oila kol kol. Uvemincha afal pi shekula kayemes. Even if all of the mincha is there, lo yizrok, he shouldn't throw. No, what do you mean? Mincha, what are we talking about? Mincha, we're talking about animal korbanos. Mincha nesachim. We're talking about those korbanos where you brought a mincha along with the animal korban. So if there's no meat or chelev left of the meat, you cannot do zrika sadam by saying, oh, the mincha, it still exists. The mincha is not the ikr part of what needs the zrika sadam. But we might have thought, since a minchas tezachim is brought along with the korban, I might have thought ki gufa dezevach dami. It's like having the meat of the animal. That no. But we see clearly that as long as some of the meat and some of what is going to be consumed is remaining, you're allowed to throw the dam. So too Rabbi Yeshua would hold regarding a mincha. However, man de posa, Reish Lakish said that even if a little bit is missing, it's still you can't through the kmitza. Shiny acha, because the Torah writes, "Ve'irima koim in mincha es askarasa v'iktir mizbecha ha mincha ad di'isa l'kula mincha lo yaktir." Reish Lakish will learn in the words ha mincha that you need the whole mincha. If it's not shalem, you can't do the kmitz. You can't throw the kmitz. What does Rav Yochanan do with that pasuk? The idich. Mina mincha shai sekvar. As long as one point the mincha was shalem, that's all you need, even if later on becomes lacking. Eisrei Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish. Rav Yochanan asks another kasha from Lechem Aponim. Ad shloi pirka. Every week, every Shabbos, they would remove the loaves of the Lechem Aponim from the shulchan and put new loaves in. And when they removed it, they would throw the lavona on the fire and they would eat the bread. So Ad shloi parka nifras lachma, if before it's time to remove, somehow some of the lechem aponim was missing. Halechem posul, you may not eat the lechem aponim, and in maktar lavas abazichet, you can't throw the spice. Imishi parka nifras lachma, but if you removed it from the lechem aponim, then you lose some of it. That's not a problem. It's a halechem posul, but umaktar lavas abazichet. You may not eat the lechem aponim, but you can throw the bazichet. Amar Belazar, lo pirka mamish. We're not talking about actually physically removing it once the time comes. We had that yesterday. Elakivan shegiz man leforek aval bishloi pirka. So you see, when you remove the lechem aponim and you throw the levona, and then after that you lose some of the lechem aponim, you didn't. It's not a problem. So that's Kasha and Reish Lakish who says you can't throw it. Amar le Hamani Rabbi Ezri. Well, that's Rabbi Ezri who says you don't have to need yet. None of the shiraim have to remain. Amar le Ano Amina Lecha Mishnah Shlema. The Mishnah is a anonymous Mishnah. Amar liad Rabbi Ezri. It has nothing to do with Rabbi Ezri. And Rabbi Ezra, my area nifras. We wouldn't have to say that it's part of it is missing. I feel sorrow for nami michsha. Rabbi Ezra doesn't need any of it remaining, even if it all got lost or it all got burned. Rabbi Ezra would say it's okay. Okay, ishtik. Rabbi Lakish said no answer. Why was Reish Lakish quiet? Lay malay. Reish Lakish could have responded to Rabbi Ezra. Tzibur shiny, lechem aponim is a korban that's brought by the whole tzibur, not by a private person. Just like hoil v'ishtri tumah gabayim. There's a din that tumah is hutra b'tzibur, that if korbanei tzibur become tumah, there are instances we could still offer it. So therefore, ishtri nami chaseros. So if it's a tzibur dik korban, even if there were parts missing, it would be acceptable. Why didn't Reish Lakish answer that? That when a korban is missing part of itself, it's like a balmum. The ain balmum b'tzibur. If the tzibur is bringing an animal and it's a balmum, it's also not permitted. So certainly, the lechem aponim is not treated any differently than other korbanos. Yosef Rav Papa of Kormalai Shmaitza. Rav Papa was learning this sugya. Amr le Rav Yosef Bar Shammai Rav Papa. Milo askinan Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish b'minchas ha'omer. Reish Lakish were arguing by the minchas ha'omer, which is a tziburi, and yet upligi. That's why Reish Lakish couldn't have said, tzibur is different, because he already by minchas ha'omer said it's not good if it become lacking. Amr of Malkiah. Tanachada misalta, from its flour. Sheim chasr kol shu psul. So if any of the flour is missing, pasal. Misham na, from its oil. Sheim chasr kol shu pasal. If some of the oil gets missing, pasal. V'tani nechva noiseres b'nai mincha. That which remains. Prat lemincha shechasr hi. That if the shirayim had lost some of its flour, it's also not good. Or v'shechasr kumtza, you did kmitza, and some of the kmitza flour got lost. V'shelo yiktim levona klum. Let's say you didn't offer the levon at all. In all those cases, the shirayim cannot be eaten by the quantity. Now, trei kroi v'chaseros lamam. Why do I need two different psukim? To say that the korbanos that are missing flour are not good. Isn't it lav chad lemincha shechasar kodim kmitza? One mincha became lacking before you did the kmitza, and the chad l'shem shechasar bein kmitza l'Torah. The other became lacking before you did the haktorah. Utziyuf to Rav Yochanan mitarvayu. And here it seems it's against Rabbi Yochanan, who said you could throw the kmitza even though the korban had become deficient. The Gemara says lo. The psukim go for something else. Chad lemincha shechasra kodim kmitza. The imevi mibesav imalena in the ilo lo. If the flour mixture, you'd lost some of the flour. So Rabbi Yochanan said you have to go home and get more flour and fill it up. Then it's okay. But if you didn't do that, it would be possible. The chav l'shiraim shechasra make mitzvah Torah. The shirayim that remains, and you haven't done the haktorah yet, and then you lose some of that shirayim that Rabbi Yochanan already has taught us that you're allowed to throw the kmitza. But afal gab de makter koimitz aleh, oisun shirayim asur lachila. Even Rabbi Yochanan will agree you may not eat the shirayim that had lost some of its flour. The iboilu. According to the opinion, which we know is Rabbi Yochanan, who said that if the shiraim had lost some of its flour before you did the kmitza, that you still throw the kmitza, osam shirayim mahen bachila. Can you eat those shiraim? Amr zeiri, amr krava noiseres min amincha, v'lo min aseres min anoseres. The original shirayim is the noseres min amincha. But now, if you've lost some of the shirayim, that's what remains from the shirayim. You're only supposed to do hanoseres min amincha, not the noiseres min anoseres. Rav Yanai Omar, min amincha mincha shaisa kvar. As long as the mincha was intact at the beginning, then you can eat the shirayim, even if you lost some of the flour down the road. Okay, kamatz bismol. He said if you did the kmitza with your left hand, it's not good. But what you can do is throw it back and start again. And menonimili, Amrav Zerd Amakra, Vayakrevis Amincha, Vayimalecha Pomimena. He brought the mincha close to the mizbeah, and then he filled his palm with it. He did the kmitza. Kav Zeni Yedei Mau. I don't know what this means. Is it right or left? Kishu Oimer V'Lokach HaKoyim Lo Gashamet. The Kohen takes from the oil, the yotzak al kafa Kohen smallis, and he pours it into the hand of the other Kohen. He pours it into his left palm. They're kan smallis, but hakol mokum shenemar kaf eino elo yamin. Here it clearly said kaf smallis, so any other time where it just says kaf, it means right. So when it says vayimalek kapol mimena, it means the right. But how could you darshan this? You need the pshat of the pasuk to say you pour the shemen into the left hand of the kohen, not the right hand. So smalas achrinaksi. There's another pasuk that talks about small. Maybe it's to include the right hand. Smolis achrina ksiv, kan smolis ve'nachar smolis. Only this reference to kaf means left, but the other ones do not. Aim either rabba. Ma kan smolis avvama nami smolis. Maybe we learn like a tzara shavet, like a b'mamet sinu. Just like here it's left, in all cases it's left. Arba smolis ksivi. There are 4 words smolis there in the parsha. Trei ba'ani u'trei ba'asher. 2 referencing a mitzorah that brings a poor man's mincha. And then we have 2 talking about someone who has money where you bring an animal. But all of tells me that all of the places where it says kaf means the right hand. It says al bo and yado yimanis. You have to put his on his right thumb. V'al bo and raglo yimanis, and on his right big toe. Dichsiv lamali. The Torah later on, the Torah and the Psukim say, you put the shemen on the same place where you put the blood. Well, the Torah already told us you put the blood on the Kohen's big toe and thumb. So why does it have to be repeated again? So the Gemara will give us the drasha, how we learn tomorrow, what we need that extra drasha to teach me. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock.